everybody. Ross Hathi out here in Singapore. You're listening to the Night Owl Podcast. It's just a little bit before midnight over here, kind of wrapping up the day, and I feel pretty good because I just finished up the third of Mastin Kipp's Live Your Purpose masterclasses. I got another one live in about 24 hours, and I'm kind of looking forward to it, but lots of revelations, lots of things I need to go back and listen to again because sometimes you don't get it on the first try, right? You got to listen to it a couple times for it to kind of sink in. But one of the main things I wanted to talk about is something that it's been like dancing around the outskirts of my mind. I kind of know that this is the way things are, but it wasn't until Mastin said it in the class that I was like, yo, that's exactly how that works. So that's the concept of experience, rewriting experience. Let me put it to you in terms that you might actually be able to digest. So when baby girl was very young, she couldn't eat certain textures. So anything that kind of resembled porridge, she would basically umgalitfy and throw up, which means to say she would choke on it and then throw it up. So it was pretty much understood that you couldn't give her anything like jelly, you couldn't give her porridge, you couldn't give her thick soup-like texture. She just couldn't do it. She would just gag and throw up. So what she was understanding at that point in time was that she couldn't eat anything that resembled pudding. So something that I make at home is caramel pudding. My grandmother, my mom, I love caramel pudding. So we will eat it all day long whenever we get a chance. For you, those of y'all who are wondering what the hell that is, it's flan. It's a Puerto Rican flan, and it's an egg-based dessert. So it has a caramel sauce to it. It has egg-based thickness. It's a um, almost a creme brulee consistency, I guess. I don't know what the difference is between creme brulee and flan, but the thing is, that's basically what it is, right? So I used to try and give her a little bit to try and see if she liked it, and she would gag and throw it up every time. She was convinced that she was allergic to that. She couldn't eat it. But it wasn't until later on in, I don't know, maybe P1. So that was, she would be 6 years old, where I'd asked her to try it again. I was eating it. She was like, what's that? I was like, why don't you try? So I gave her very little, and she was able to kind of swallow it without any problem. And she was like, yo, this is really good. I like it. So she wanted to eat more. But it wasn't until she physically tried it that she could rewrite the first trauma of experiencing it and thinking that it was something she was allergic to. Same thing went for a lot of different foods. She was convinced she was allergic to, what was it now? I think she said she was allergic to papaya because she didn't like the taste of it. So back when she was younger, we used to give her papaya because she had trouble just, regulating her bowels. And we figured, yo, papaya worked for all of us. Let's give her some of that. And she's like, nope, I don't like it. It's disgusting. I don't want to eat it ever again. I'm allergic. So the memory of that, she told herself that she couldn't eat it because she had a bad experience. Same thing with other foods that maybe gave her diarrhea. I remember we went to a specific shop that we don't normally go to. We go to the same places over and over again because we can predict what the outcome will be if it's food based. So we went to a new shop. We got wonton mee, which has a char siu pork with it. It was great. It tasted good going down, but for some reason, we got the runs the next day. So when she remembered that, she assumed that all things that looked like wonton mee with char siu she can no longer eat because she's allergic. It gave her diarrhea. So it's stuff like that that basically tells our nervous system, hey, you can't do this. It will make you sick. It will make you uncomfortable. You will end up throwing up. You will die. Whatever the case may be, your experience has taught you that, yo, this is not a good deal. Don't do it again. But it's not until you try it again later and the result is different that it rewrites what your nervous system already knows. The first experience is kind of erased and overwritten or rewritten, re-recorded. I don't want to know what you want to call it, but it basically overrides what was there before and it creates a new situation. Um, another another example would be cassette tapes. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, we used to tape songs off the radio, right? We'd sit by the radio, cassette tape in the radio player already, and we would hit the record button as soon as one of our favorite songs came on. It was one of those things we had to be quick on the draw. We had to hit the button really fast so we could get the whole beginning of the song. Now, there was also a part on the cassette tape where you could press a little square on the top of it and it would break off, which means once you break it off, it can no longer be rewritten. You couldn't record over what you'd already recorded. It basically protected your information that you had recorded and you couldn't record over it again. And that's something that I think that we don't have as people. We can re-record based on using experiences. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe you had one relationship and it was really, really bad, and it was a really bad example of how people love each other, but it's the only experience you have, and so you're very, very wary. You're very scared about going off and trying again, um, because you don't want to experience that again, and you're afraid that the next person will turn out to be the same. But it's not until you try again that you really know, hey, this one was different from the last. It had different outcomes. It had different twists and turns. That person had different preferences. This person has different preferences, and I feel different when I'm around them. It's not until you try again that you can rewrite the fact that this is the only experience you have. This is why variety is considered the spice of life, because until you try many different foods or many different relationships or many different jobs, you don't know what you really like and what you don't. When it comes to jobs, you may think that you don't have the confidence to do certain things. It's not until you meet certain managers that you realize that certain people have the ability to bring out the best in you or the worst in you, depending on how they lead, their management style, what they know about human relations, and how to manage the people around them. Um, Sometimes with experience, you realize, okay, well, most people don't know what they're doing, and it's up to me to really push myself to be as confident as possible and try new things. Sometimes you get lucky and you have, a really great boss who encourages you to take risks and try new things and, maybe ask for more money or volunteer for new projects so you can be shortlisted for a new position. Any of those things, it really is up to your experience. Unless you put yourself out there and try again, you never know what you can overcome. You never know what the possibilities are. So the less experience you have, the fewer the possibilities will appear to you because it's based on your own experience. But once you start testing those experiences over and over again, because every time you put yourself out there, you're a different person, you're a different version of yourself, it could turn out differently. So the fact that Maston basically said that you could rewrite your history, rewrite your nervous system to believe or to predict some other different circumstance or different outcome is because you need the experience to happen first. So maybe the first experience with you walking was that you fell, and maybe you're a little, wary about walking the second time, but the next time you walk, maybe you walk a little bit further and you don't fall as often. But the more you walk, the more you realize that every time you fall, you can pick yourself up. It doesn't hurt as bad. You can control the way you fall, and it doesn't affect your self-esteem as much. Same thing with dance and performance and movies. For me, I've never acted before. And once I got in front of the camera, the first time I did it, I was very, very nervous. And the moment that the director gave me one piece of encouragement, I felt pretty good. But then when they corrected something, it's like all I could think of was the correction. When they gave me a second correction, I forgot the first one. So I've had situations like that before, but it wasn't until I'd done like 3, 4, 5 takes that I realized, okay, you know what? I can do this. It's not going to end up the same way every time. I can change the outcome of it because it depends on my intent and my attitude going into the situation. So by the time I finished 4 or 5 days of filming, it was no big deal. It was old hat already. Now all I had to do was concentrate on memorizing the script. Same thing for dance performances. When I first started performing, it was nerve-wracking and I was freaking out, and obviously the very first thing I did was focus on someone's face in the crowd and forget what the hell I was doing on stage. The second performance, I realized, yeah, don't focus on people in the crowd. Focus on the footlights where you can't really see anything, or pick a spot on the wall all the way in the back of the room so you can, make sure your eye level, your eye line is the right place, and you can actually concentrate on the next move, the next move, the next move, and get through the dance. So it took a couple times, but I figured out what worked best for me. Same thing with studying in school, right? For the longest time, I thought the best thing to do was to rewrite your notes. That's not the best thing for me. Sometimes it's to rewrite my notes. Sometimes it's to teach somebody what I'm trying to study as well, because in the process of teaching them, I'm relearning everything that I need to relearn. Same thing with cooking. Um, the first time I cooked, I was not that great. There was too much salt and I didn't know how to fix it. The first time I learned how to fix a situation where there's too much salt, I tested a theory to throw potatoes in there if the recipe fits, right? To throw potatoes in there because it takes up some of the salt and it's not so bad. And that way you can always add a little bit more if you need to, but at least it takes away the vast majority of the over salting. And it wasn't until I tested the theory that I realized, okay, I don't need to panic anymore when I have too much salt. I know what to do. I just need to make sure that I have potatoes on hand. It's just like that for everything. Every experience is overwritten by the next experience in that same category. Singing in public, trying new outfits and fashion combinations. The first time I went out with a sari, and I didn't think anything of it. I felt beautiful. I thought the blouse fit, and I thought, it was a close match to the sari color, and it'll work. But it wasn't until someone said, "Hey, you know what? That doesn't look right. And what the fuck are you doing? You look crazy," that I started second guessing myself. And at that point, it took me a while to put a sari back on and go out in public. But it wasn't until I did that very thing that I was avoiding that I realized, you know what? Everyone has their own opinion about the way that I should be dressing. And unless they want to be me, they're not going to be able to override how I feel about being in a sari. Most people, if you notice right now, they wear their pallu very, very long. It's the style at the moment. For me, I've always been a dance girl, so it's always got to be long enough for me to wrap around and tuck into my sari again. So it's not that long. It maybe comes to my knee length, but it's up to me until I felt comfortable doing it for myself. Until I over oh my gosh, I'm having such trouble with this word. Until I overwrote or re-recorded my nervous system's response to how I feel about going out in a sari, I was going to be nervous. So the experience had to delete and override the original experience. That's the only way you can redo these things. You can't undo what your nervous system is predicting will happen just by thinking about the situation and talking about the situation. Yes, you need to be aware. Yes, you need to understand. But you also need to get back on that horse and prove to yourself that you can have a different outcome. It's not until you get into the doing of things that you can really rewrite the outcome. So, honestly speaking, experience rewrites experience. But you got to be brave enough and vulnerable enough to get back on that damn horse and try again. Ever had a situation where you were on a date and the date went very badly? Or maybe it was a sexual escapade that just ended very badly and you were very, very self conscious and didn't want to put yourself in that position ever again? Well, guess what? You won't be able to feel confident about doing any of those things or being in any of those situations again until you put yourself in that place one more time. So, the bottom line for this podcast episode is the fact that you're going to need to get back on that horse. You're going to need to go out there and try one more time. Maybe, it's a sporting event and you screwed up in front of the entire team and you let the team down. But you won't know what you're made of until you test that thing again. Until you get back out on that court or on that field and you swing again or you shoot again or throw a pass or bowl a ball, whatever whatever the sport is. Until you try again, you won't know what you're capable of. Until you try again, you won't have the chance to disprove the theory that it will fail, that you will end in calamity of some sort, that you will embarrass the hell out of yourself. You won't know until you try again. So my advice, try again. Try over and over and over again. Because the more you try, the better the odds are that you will fail and survive rather than fail and die of embarrassment. If you got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from all of you. But in the meantime, y'all get some rest and I'll catch you again tomorrow. Good night.